Well, it barely fits in the frame, but the Kinect. Like the Wii, but worse on every front. This thing was the coolest thing ever if you didn't own it. There's no good way to display this thing, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. Revealed back in 2009 with the tagline, "You are the controller," it was basically envisioned to be the next generation of gaming. Controllers be gone, you just have this watching eye. And look, it definitely wasn't all it was cracked up to be, but yeah, they still crammed a lot of tech into this thing. In my opinion, the two biggest problems with this thing is the fact that what it did wasn't interesting, and it didn't always do that thing very well. Now, granted, it did work quite well for some games, especially, you know, dancing games and Fruit Ninja, whatever reason. But there was other games I don't exactly think it was precise enough for. I always remember Sonic Free Riders. That game just never worked. Now, I don't particularly think that was a great game anyway, but yeah, this thing didn't help. It also came down to this thing, space requirements. Yeah, basically needed a fairly big sitting room, in all honesty, if you wanted to play this. If you had any sort of back room, or God forbid a bedroom, yeah, this thing wasn't gonna work. Now, I've just listed off all of these things, but my biggest problem with this thing wasn't actually any of that, or the fact that it made the whole sit down and play nature of consoles a lot more complicated. No, my biggest problem was the legacy of this thing, and how it basically, you know, ruined the last 3 years of the 360's life cycle. Yeah, this thing was basically heavily marketed and heavily pushed by Microsoft at the time, and definitely to the detriment of Xbox exclusives. If you look at the games that came out before this thing launched and afterwards, it's quite night and day. It also didn't really help that by about this time Sony had got their act together, fixed up the PS3, and were launching games like The Last of Us, God of War 3, and Uncharted 3. Yeah, the writing was kind of on the walls for how the Xbox One was going to launch.